Jeff, for the question.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
Jesus, I say that.
You should be ashamed of yourself for having that thought.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
Oh, it never occurred to me.
Interesting.
It's just crazy enough to work.
Yeah.
Illegal. Zuckerbuck.
Ah, shit. I just realized I had myself muted that whole time. A lot of difficulties here at the beginning of the stream today. Oh shit, my monitor is behind by a minute. Must have been a lag. Well, it's good to see everybody. I'm gonna skip the spiel. Roanoip, So Life, Selena, Aaron W, Afroponics, Robot Cat, BKK, Vincent Morales, fresh out of the asylum. Good to see you all. But since nobody heard me, we are going to be taking a long journey today, so be sure to buckle up those seatbelts, folks. Never know what you're going to encounter on a journey through space. Well, we're going to start with Juneteenth today, in lieu of specifically talking about gun violence. Seems like the thing to start the stream with. So, let's go with this one first. If somehow you're unaware of what Juneteenth is, this story is for you. This is from Reuters from a day ago. What is Juneteenth? America's newest federal holiday.
Juneteenth marks the emancipation of enslaved Black Americans. Long a regional holiday in the South, it became the newest U.S. federal holiday in 2021 under U.S. President Joe Biden.
This is a day of profound, in my view, profound weight and profound power.
It rose in prominence after protests in 2020 over the police killings of Black Americans, including George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Rayshard Brooks. Here's a look at its roots and significance. Juneteenth, which combines the words June and 19th, is also known as Emancipation Day. It marks a day in 1865 after the Confederate States had surrendered to end the Civil War, when a Union general arrived in Galveston, Texas to inform a group of enslaved African Americans about their freedom under President Abraham Lincoln's 1863 Emancipation Proclamation. Dozens of states and the District of Columbia legally recognize it as a holiday and give state workers a paid day off. It's in part a celebration, but Juneteenth is also observed solemnly, honoring those who suffered as a result of slavery in the U.S. over hundreds of years. After emancipation, the country imposed a draconian system of racial segregation. According to the Pew Research Center, the states of Connecticut, Minnesota, Nevada, and Tennessee made Juneteenth a permanent public holiday in 2023. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey also authorized it as a state holiday this year by decree. 4 years after tensions flared over the killing of Black Americans at the hands of police, race remains a sensitive issue. In Florida and other states, some conservatives are trying to change the way Black history is taught in public schools. Since last year's Juneteenth, the conservative-majority U.S. Supreme Court ruled that universities can no longer consider race as a factor in student admissions. That decision ended affirmative action programs used by many U.S. schools to increase the number of Black, Hispanic, and other students from underrepresented communities. Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris marked the day earlier in June with a concert at the White House that paid tribute to civil rights activists who were awarded the President.
Oh my god. These two are so freaking awkward. Ugh. Alright, let's move on. I think everybody here knows what Juneteenth is. So, let's get into it then. First, let's start with this. This is from Democracy Now! From 14 hours ago, where Amy and crew had on historian Clint Smith to discuss the reckoning with the history of slavery across America.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Today, a Democracy Now! Special on this, the newly created Juneteenth federal holiday, which marks the end of slavery in the United States. The Juneteenth commemoration dates back to the last days of the Civil War, when Union soldiers landed in Galveston, Texas. It was June 19, 1865, with news that the war had ended and enslaved people learned they were freed. It was 2.5 years after President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. In 2021, President...
2.5 years, people, that basically most slaves in the United States went without knowing that they were free. Just, oh, God. Our history really sucks.
Biden signed legislation to make Juneteenth the first new federal holiday since Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The day after Biden signed the legislation, I spoke to the writer and poet Clint Smith, author of How the Word is Passed, a reckoning with the history of slavery across America. I began by asking him about traveling to Galveston, Texas, and his feelings on Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday.
As you mentioned, I went to Galveston, Texas. I've been writing this book for 4 years, and I went 2 years ago. And it was marking the 40th anniversary of when Texas had made Juneteenth a state holiday. And it was the Al Edwards prayer breakfast. The late Al Edwards Sr. is the state legislator, black state legislator, who made possible and advocated for the legislation that turned Juneteenth into a holiday, state holiday in Texas. And so I went in part because I wanted to spend time with people who were the actual descendants of those who had been freed by General Gordon Granger's General Order Number 3. And
hold on, I just realized you all have 15 likes already. I know we're competing with multiple streams today, and yet somehow you're all doing great. 8. Who is 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Astrid. Astrid, get up in here. There we go.
It was a really remarkable moment because I was in this place, on this island, on this land, with people for whom Juneteenth was not an abstraction. It was not a performance. It was not merely a symbol. It was part of their tradition. It was part of their lineage. It was an heirloom that had been passed down, that had made their lives possible. And so I think I gained a more intimate sense of what that holiday meant. And to sort of broaden out more generally, you spoke to how it was more than 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, and it was an additional 2 months after General Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox, effectively ending the Civil War. So it wasn't only 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation; it was an additional 2 months after the Civil War was effectively over. And so for me, when I think of Juneteenth, part of what I think about is both the both-andedness of it. That it is this moment in which we mourn the fact that freedom was kept from hundreds of thousands of enslaved people for years and for months after it had been attained by them. And then at the same time, celebrating the end of one of the most egregious things that this country has ever done. And I think what we're experiencing right now is a sort of marathon of cognitive dissonance in the way that is reflective of the Black experience as a whole, because we are in a moment where we have the first new federal holiday in over 40 years, and a moment that is important to celebrate the Juneteenth and to celebrate the end of slavery, and to have it recognized as a national holiday. And at the same time that is happening, we have a state-sanctioned effort across state legislatures across the country that is attempting to prevent teachers from teaching the very thing that helps young people understand the context from which Juneteenth emerges. And so I think that we recognize that as a symbol, Juneteenth is not, that it matters, that it is important, but it is clearly not enough. And I think what the fact that Juneteenth has happened is reflective of a shift in our public consciousness.
There's a lot of decoration going on with these things. You had to go into central London yesterday for a meeting, and brought your weed vape along. Yeah, that seems like a great use of that particular implement, device, if you will. I've been trying to stop smoking, as I, have done for a long, long time. So I've been going to vapes, and rocking the weed vape is definitely, it's nice. It's nice. I'm a fan.
But also of the work that Black Texans and Black people across this country have done for decades to make this moment possible.
And can you explain more what happened in Galveston in 1865, and even, as you point out, what the Emancipation Proclamation actually did 2.5 years before?
Right. So the Emancipation Proclamation is often a widely misunderstood document. So it did not sort of wholesale free the enslaved people throughout the Union. It did not free enslaved people in the Union. In fact, there were several border states that were part of the Union that continued to keep their enslaved laborers, states like Kentucky, states like Delaware, states like Missouri. And what it did was it was a military edict that was attempting to free enslaved people in Confederate territory. But the only way that that edict would be enforced is if Union soldiers went and took that territory. And so part of what many enslavers realized, right, and realized correctly, was that Texas would be one of the last frontiers that Union soldiers would be able to come in and enforce the Emancipation Proclamation, if they ever made it there in the first place, because this was 2 years prior to the end of the Civil War. And so you had enslavers from Virginia and from North Carolina and from all of these states in the Upper South who brought their enslaved laborers and relocated to Texas in ways that increased the population of enslaved people in Texas by the tens of thousands. And so when Gordon Granger comes to Texas, he is making clear and letting people know that the Emancipation Proclamation had been enacted in ways that, because of the topography of Texas and because of how spread out and rural and far apart from different ecosystems of information many people were, a lot of people didn't know that the Emancipation.
Yeah, they didn't know. All right, hold on. Let's keep moving through this. I just think that's a important thing to remember, that while we celebrate the Emancipation Proclamation today, it didn't exactly change things for a vast majority of enslaved peoples in America for years. And so you know, I think it's a grain of salt to take along with the discussion of the Emancipation Proclamation. Hold on, there's still more to talk about though, so let's not get too far in the weeds.
The things you do in your book is you introduce us to grassroots activists. This doesn't come from the top. This comes from years of organizing, as you point out, in Galveston itself, and with people like, not that there's anyone like, Opal Lee.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Part of what this book is doing, it is an attempt to uplift the stories of people who don't often get the attention that they deserve in how they shape the historical record. So that means the public historians who work at these historical sites and plantations. That means the museum curators. That means the activists and the organizers, people like Take 'em Down Nola in New Orleans, who pushed the city council and the mayor to make possible the fact that in 2017 these statues would come down, several Confederate statues in my hometown in New Orleans. And part of when I think about someone like Miss Opal Lee, part of what I think about is our proximity to this period of history, right? Slavery existed for 250 years in this country and has only not existed for 150. And, you know, the way that I was taught about slavery growing up in elementary school, we were made to feel as if it was something that happened in the Jurassic Age, that it was the Flintstones, the dinosaurs, and slavery, almost as if they all happened at the same time. But the woman who opened the National Museum of African American History and Culture alongside the Obama family in 2016 was the daughter of an enslaved person. Not the granddaughter or the great-granddaughter or the great-great-granddaughter, the daughter of an enslaved person is who opened this.
Exactly. Exactly. This is something we all have to, you know, remember, that this is not history from long, long ago in terms of human history. And, you know, if you also include Jim Crow, it extends much further, right? And so I think it's important for us to remember that there are people who experienced Jim Crow personally, still around, and people who, you know, are only one generation away from slaves, from American slaves here, right? And so, you know, like the thing about these sorts of generational tragedies, if you will, right? These sorts of imprints from the past, you know, while they subside over the generations, when we're talking about something that's that close to us, we can't forget, you know, how it's currently affecting the present, right? Because the reverse of that also, well, I don't know, not the reverse, but the other side of that exists as well, right? Because if what we just said is true, then also slave owners, right? There's one generation away, right? There's a bunch of people in this country who are one generation away from their slave owning ancestors, right? And who are, in many cases, there are still the same people who were around during Jim Crow, during the, you know, civil rights era, the people who were burning crosses in people's fucking yards, who were attacking black people on the street, and you know, we could go down the list on all of those things, right? So these things are very recent history to some degree.
Museum at the Smithsonian in 2016, and so there's clearly, for so many people, there are people who are alive today, who were raised by, who knew, who were in community with, who loved, people who were born into intergenerational chattel bondage. And so this history that we tell ourselves was a long time ago wasn't in fact that long ago at all. And part of what so many activists and grassroots public historians and organizers across this country recognize is that if we don't fully understand and account for this history that actually wasn't that long ago, that in the scope of human history was only just yesterday, then we won't fully understand how our contemporary landscape of inequality today. We won't understand how slavery shaped the political, economic, and social infrastructure of this country. And when you have a more acute understanding,
absolutely, which is why we need to try and build our understandings of these things more day by day. Now, to continue this discussion of our understandings of these things, I think it starts around here. I'm close.
People don't know is that New York City.
Here we go. I'm right. Hold on. Let me go back 15 seconds. Here we go. Let's talk about the North.
Visit are in the South because the South is where slavery was saturated and where it was most intimately tied to the social and economic infrastructure of that society. It most certainly also existed in the North. What a lot of people don't know is that New York City, for an extended period of time, was the second largest slave port in the country after Charleston, South Carolina. That in 1860, on the brink of the Civil War, when South Carolina...
See, you hear South Carolina, and you immediately think about all that past, I think, for many, at least for myself. But I think that's something important to recognize, right? That slavery was legal in the North, too, for a long time. Many people owned slaves in the North, people who are often respected and aren't even considered as having been former slave owners, but were. And that statistic I actually was not familiar with until hearing this historian speak. The fact that New York City was the second largest slave port in the world at one point, the second to South Carolina. Oh, God. Really makes you think.
Was about to secede from the Union after the election of Abraham Lincoln, that New York City's mayor, Fernando Wood, proposed that New York City should also secede from the Union alongside the southern states because New York's financial, political, and political infrastructure were so deeply entangled and tied to the slaveocracy of the South. Also that the Statue of Liberty was originally conceived by Edouard de la Boulaye, a French abolitionist, who conceived of the idea of the Statue of Liberty and giving it to the United States as a gift, that it was originally conceived as an idea to celebrate the end of the Civil War and to celebrate abolition. But over time, that meaning has been, even through the conception of the statue, right? The original conception of the statue actually had Lady Liberty breaking shackles, like a pair of broken shackles on her wrist to symbolize the end of slavery. And over time, it became very clear that that would not have the sort of wide mainstream support of people across the country. Obviously, this having been just not too long after the end of the Civil War. So
we should have taken the shackles. It would have made people remember some things, you know, like that was misguided.
A lot of fresh wounds. And so they shifted the meaning of the statue to be more about a sort of inclusivity, more about the American experience, the American project, the American promise, the promise of democracy, and sort of obfuscated the original meaning to the point where even the design changed. And so they replaced the...
Yeah, it's very frustrating. You know, and this is something to this degree I was not aware of. I knew that there had been some changes made to it, but I do appreciate his historical context bringing here.
The shackles with a tablet and the torch, and then put the shackles very subtly sort of underneath her robe. And you can, but the only way you can see them, these broken chains, these broken links, are from a helicopter, or from an airplane. And in many ways, I think that that is a microcosm for how we hide the story of slavery across this country, that these chain links are hidden out of sight, out of view of most people, under the robe of Lady Liberty, and how the story of slavery across this country is very, as we see now, very intentionally trying to be hidden and kept from so many people, so that we have a fundamentally inconsistent understanding of the way that slavery shaped our contemporary society today.
So yeah, the CRT outrage started a long time ago. Jesus Christ, dude.
I feel like I'm taking crazy.
Oh, God, chat. We have a frustrating history, but the more we know, perhaps the more that we can make the future better. Or at least the present more bearable. Okay. You think it's pretty symbolic of America? It certainly is, of the current paradigm and of the things that have happened since. You know what? Yeah, I think Bicat's right. I was trying to find, but no. Yeah, you're right on with that one. Okay, now let's talk about somebody who passed away recently. If you haven't heard, the famous baseball player Willie Mays passed away yesterday, and CBS News here has done a short story on him and his life, both on and off the baseball field, and I figured we'd watch this as part of our discussion.
Baseball fans around the world are mourning the passing of one of the greatest to ever play the game. Major League Baseball says Willie Mays died yesterday at the age of 93.
Mays amassed an impressive career where he was named an All-Star 24 times. He won 12 Gold Glove Awards and 2 National League MVP awards. He's also known for his iconic play dubbed The Catch in Game 1 of the 1954 World Series.
You're seeing Grant Brisbee now. He's a staff writer for The Athletic who covers the San Francisco Giants. Grant, it's hard to really describe Willie Mays' overall achievements, but how would you characterize his impact on the game, both on and off the field?
It's not just that he had impact on the game of baseball. It's the impact he had on American culture and the footprint he had on general American life. On the field, he was as good as they come. He could do it all. He had what they call 5 tools. He was as fast as anyone. He had the power. He had the average. He could As you saw, he could catch, he could do everything. But off the field, he was an icon. He was someone, it's hard to imagine today, but the outsized footprint of baseball in American life, he was the next great superstar across the country. He was a San Francisco West Coast superstar at the time when West Coast baseball was very new. Everything about him was just superstar, larger than life, and that's why it hurts so bad around the country today.
But it's such a great opportunity.
Yeah, and here's a fact from Wikipedia. Willie Mays ranks second behind only Babe Ruth on most all-time lists, including those of the Sporting News and ESPN. I'm not sure why that's important context, but they decided to put it there.
Opportunity to talk about Mays and his multiple contributions. Speaking to our floor director here, he was talking about how he was the Michael Jordan of baseball. In one game, he scored 3 home runs, if you can imagine that. But then, as you mentioned, he was also a cultural figure because he served the country. He served the U.S. Army for nearly 2 years during the Korean War. He never saw combat, but he did receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015.
He did. This is true.
Talk about how, especially given that he spanned...
This is true. Also, Willie Mays was old enough that he was relegated to playing in the segregated Negro leagues of the time before it was disbanded until he came to the MLB, and then still won all of those titles, all of the things that he did. And he played, I think, 4 years not in the MLB, and some people say that you know, he would have even broken more. He would have, and that would make sense, right? That he would have broken even more records had he been able to play in the MLB for the beginning. Now let's go on to this to discuss a little bit about the actual events surrounding the sort of the end of slavery in America as it relates to enslaved people. This is a PBS documentary from about 5 months ago, it looks like. This is the secret group that planned an insurrection against slavery.
In the years before the Civil War, terror often gripped white Americans in the South. More than anything, they feared an uprising of the people they held in bondage. The Knights of Liberty, a top-secret, all-black militant organization, prepared to justify their fears by launching the largest enslaved rebellion in American history. But before they could revolt, secret orders called them off. I'm Joel Cook, and this is Rogue History. It all began in August of 1846, when a traveling barber named Moses Dixon convened a secret meeting in St. Louis, Missouri, to, as he would put it, prepare for business. His plan called for the infiltration of the southern states to recruit and train men who were courageous, patient, temperate, and possessed of sound common sense. Recruits were required to take an oath of secrecy until death. After 10 years of training, these Knights of Liberty would launch a war on slavery. The participants in this St. Louis meeting, made up of Dixon and 11 trusted friends, would come to be known as the Order of 12. These 12 men spread out across the South to establish the Knights of Liberty. But even as they chipped away at this 10-year plan, they made an immediate impact on the Underground Railroad. In a 1901 Denver Post interview, Dixon stated that the Knights operated a network capable of moving freedom seekers all across the United States. Disguise was often part of their success. In one case, Dixon rescued a mother and daughter from Louisiana by coordinating tailors and barbers to disguise them as sailors. A fellow Knight of Liberty snuck them onto a steamboat as part of the crew, and they successfully made their way to freedom in Canada. In the same interview, Dixon said that the Knights of Liberty had an unbreakable telegraph code that remains hidden to this day. But we do have evidence of coded language from other underground resistance groups who operated during the same time period. The African Mysteries, a group based in Detroit, Michigan, communicated with freedom seekers through what we would know today as call signs. One nonverbal signal required a person to touch the knuckle of their right index finger to the knuckle of their left. The other person would respond by reversing the signal left to right to confirm that they were also part of the organization. But while groups like the African Mysteries were focused on escaping from the South, the Knights of Liberty wanted to seize land for Black people in the South. The plan was to attack Atlanta and form a stronghold of Black resistance. Moses Dixon's plans for a separatist state were rooted in life experience. His parents were born into slavery, and as a boy, he survived race riots in Cincinnati intended to drive Black people out of the city. He learned that Black liberation was needed by any means necessary, and would come to know exactly what that meant when he lived through Nat Turner's rebellion. On August 21st, 1831, Turner and at least 40 compatriots launched a bid to end slavery by attacking several plantations in Southampton County, Virginia. While it was never truly clear what Turner's plan was, the rebels executed 55 people before being stopped by state and federal militias. Black people suffered the consequences of the rebellion, with hundreds being beaten and murdered across the South. Slave patrols, formed by state and local militias, began an early version of stop and frisk policing, and laws known as slave codes prevented enslaved people from gathering in large numbers, traveling without permission, or testifying in court. None of this was lost on the Knights of Liberty as they prepared for their own revolution. In discussing the secrecy needed for them to succeed, Moses Dixon wrote, "We know of the failure of Nat Turner and others. Previous rebellion leaders struggled with stealth and planned for just weeks or months without building a real infrastructure to support their operations. Dixon gambled that a large army with 10 years of training gave them a real chance. Now, they just needed funding. To raise money for his secret plan..."
Hold on. 20 likes. Okay, hold on. Whoa. What was that? 18. It was 18. Sam. 18 is Sam. We get Sam for Juneteenth. Okay. Get in here, Sam. Good to see all of you folks who've shown up since the beginning. Good God. Who's recently showed up? Jerry McLean. Choking on Ashes. Brandy Nuance. Mrs. Jen. Disco Wolf. Chris Garrett. So many people. My God. Schmegly, I see you as well. Alright, now let's, hold on. I can't watch this whole thing. Although we've already watched like half of it. Actually, where do we start here? Now, this is PBS. This is public, right? We're just going to watch this whole thing. It's a really good documentary.
Dixon appealed to sympathetic abolitionists in the North and the South. They willingly donated thousands to Dixon's Underground Railroad work, unaware that they were funding a revolution. By 1856, they had everything they needed to launch their war against slavery. But when the time finally came, they didn't strike. As Moses Dixon surveyed the landscape, it became clear to him that a civil war was coming, whether the Knights initiated it or not. Not far from his home in St. Louis, anti-slavery and pro-slavery guerrillas were already fighting a civil war along the Missouri-Kansas border. Dixon recognized that a larger movement was forming and decided to wait. But not everyone accepted the order to call off the rebellion. From Texas to Louisiana, and eventually all the way to Maryland, uprisings and rumors of uprisings struck terror among the slaveholders in the fall of 1856. But Dixon was vindicated when Confederate forces officially started the U.S. Civil War in 1861. Almost immediately after the start of the conflict, Black Americans began providing intelligence to the Union Army about the Confederates. Coded broadly as Black dispatches, this information could come in the form of debriefs from the people who escaped the Confederacy, or from missions specifically orchestrated by the Union Intelligence Office. But Black people weren't officially allowed to join the Union Army until 1863. So who was the Intelligence Office working with? Because the Knights of Liberty maintained strict secrecy, there are no documents confirming their participation in the early years of the war. But there are lots of coincidences. Take the Loyal League, for example. This all-Black spying organization was formed at an Ohio convention in 1851, not far from Dixon's hometown. When the Civil War began, this League of Black spies hit the ground running because they already had a strong communications network operating all over the South. Sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? Though the armed rebellion didn't play out the way they planned, the Knights' work was not in vain. The network Moses Dixon built remained intact after the war, transitioning into a mutual benefit society known as the International Order of 12 of Knights and Daughters of Tabor. Dixon played a major role in organizing schools for Black Americans in St. Louis and served as a founding member of what is now Lincoln University of Missouri, one of the oldest historically Black universities in the nation. After his death in 1901, his legacy continued on through the Taborian Hospital in Mound Bayou, one of the first hospitals in the country with an all-Black staff. Whether through clandestine means like those used on the Underground Railroad, or the violent insurrections that moved the United States closer to a reckoning with slavery, there has been a continuous through line of Black agency and organizing from this country's founding through the present day. We'll never know what would have happened if Moses Dixon and the Knights of Liberty had launched their own war on slavery in 1856. But what their plans do tell us is that the narrative that Lincoln and the Union Army freed the enslaved doesn't even begin to tell the entire true story of African American emancipation.
Exactly. That's why I thought this was such a great story, right? Because it helps us, remember that slaves were heavily involved in their own emancipation, and that, kind of in combination with what we were talking about earlier with regards to the Emancipation Proclamation and slaves literally waiting years without even knowing that they were free. It's a more complicated story than perhaps is mythologized. And, okay, now to end our discussion here of Juneteenth, I figured you would listen to this very short clip from Opal Lee.
I'm delighted, I really am, that so many of you are celebrating freedom. And I don't mean freedom in Texas and freedom for Black people. I mean freedom for all of us. And we aren't free yet. I want you to make yourself a committee of one to change somebody's mind. You know people who aren't on the same page you on, change their minds. Not gonna happen in a day, you're gonna have to work at it. But if people have been taught to hate, they can be taught to love. You don't have to do something gigantic, but you could smile at somebody. You could help an old lady like myself across the street. You could watch the kids while the mother goes shopping. These are small things, but they unite us. And we need to be united.
I just thought that was a great message. We need to be united. And we're not free yet. Which is why we need to be united. Now, if you don't know, Opal Lee is referred to as the grandmother of Juneteenth. She's an activist who is intrinsic to the holiday becoming a federal holiday for all of America. And yeah, I mean, she was born in like the 20s or something, and so she's seen a lot of stuff. Now, let's quickly talk about policing. This is from yesterday, from Global News in Canada. Policing the police. What powers do civilian bodies have to hold officers accountable? I'll tell you this much. I watched it, and you'll be shocked to find out it's very little.
Oh my God!
A harrowing police chase the wrong way down a highway. Two of the officers involved aren't speaking to the police watchdog.
For fuck's sake.
Anyone has the right not to testify, experts say, but it raises the question, who holds police accountable?
There really isn't any, like none. The changes that need to happen are huge.
Margie Gray's son, Miles, died in 2015 after a severe beating by 7 Vancouver officers. Last year, an inquest deemed it homicide, though the finding carries no legal responsibility.
I think that Mr. Gray's case is one of those cases that suffered from what appears to be in this country an issue with Crown approving charges from bodies such as the IIO.
Until recently, Ron McDonald led the Independent Investigations Office, which oversees BC Police. Every province has a civilian police oversight body and can help the territories when needed, but not all can charge the police themselves and merely recommend charges.
So what is that, like 3 out of... How many provinces are there? Like 10 Canadian provinces? Like 3 out of 10? That's not great. That is not great. It feels like America. It's got very similar vibes. Okay, I just thought that'd be a good way to segue us from Juneteenth to the rest of American-related news. If you missed this, let's watch this one from a day ago. The Club Q shooter from Colorado has pled guilty to federal hate crime charges amounting to, I believe, something like 2,000 years is the number we heard yesterday. Why don't you want to go to the next level? Oh my God. There we go.
Today, Anderson Lee Aldrich was sentenced to 55 life sentences running concurrently, plus 190 years without the possibility of parole for the brazen and calculated attack against innocent people at Club Q on November 19th of 2022. This was one of the most violent, hate-fueled mass shootings targeting the LGBTQIA+ community in our nation's history. The defendant's actions killed 5 people, seriously injured dozens of others, and caused untold anguish to many.
He stalked us, basically, and took his time, months in advance, and he was cold-blooded. When he shot me, he was spraying the crowd randomly, you know. I was disappointed because of the death penalty being not offered. But I understand that that's a long process, and we really didn't want to go through it. But that's really on our hearts, what we wanted. But we'll take what we...
Yeah, I think 2,000 years is good enough. But I get the sentiment. If I had, yeah, I mean, if I had been there, I'd probably be thinking similar things. But hopefully this does at least bring some closure to the people whose families were affected or they were themselves affected by this. Seriously though, that was quite the jacket. Am I wrong? I mean, wow. All sequins. Okay, now let's talk about something. So we're let's this is going to be our transition from talking about pride for a moment, although it's not really a pride thing. It's it's interesting that it's happening in Pride Month. Feels only right. But let's go to this, because this is gonna be problematic for the whole LGBTQ community, among others, as well as, let's think, anybody who's not a Christian. This is from CBS News from 5 hours ago, where a Louisiana governor, or the Louisiana governor, as there's only one, well, they have signed into law the requiring of the 10 Commandments to be displayed in every public school classroom.
Jesus, I say that.
Louisiana is the first state to require that the 10 Commandments be displayed in every public school classroom. Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed the bill into law today. The legislation, written by Republicans, mandates that every public classroom, from kindergarten to college, must have a poster-sized display of the commandments in a, quote, large, easily readable font.
I didn't actually hear that part of it earlier. It has to be poster-sized with a large, readable font as well. Weird. Super weird. Oh, God. Theocracy much? I mean, wow. I mean, the zero separation between church and state. In fact, that seems like a clear violation of that. Ugh. Just wild. What even is a Christian anymore? I think a Christian is, at least in America, somebody who wants to tell everybody else what to do, and they want their religion to be intertwined with every aspect of the government. Like it's, I don't know. It's a good, Saudi Arabia. We're getting real close. What's next? Oh, let's watch this incredibly disturbing story from 2 hours ago. This one should be surprising. MSNBC. According to them, Trump's spiritual advisor has admitted to sexually abusing a 12-year-old girl. Sorry, it was difficult to say. And if you're bothered by this subject, I don't blame you. It's gonna take us a little bit, so if you need to pop in and out, I don't. Once again, I don't in any way hold it against you. This is very upsetting, but I think necessary for us to unpack. Two of these stories in a row, one day after another. Very frustrating.
One of the ways Donald Trump won the 2016 election was through the complete embrace of him by evangelicals, both the base and pastors and leaders in that movement. One of the most prominent is a pastor named Robert Morris. He founded a Texas megachurch in Southlake, Texas. Morris was also a spiritual advisor to Trump while he was in the White House. Here he is in the Rose Garden in 2020, just a few rows behind where then Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett's family and the First Lady are about to sit. And here is Trump visiting Morris's church earlier that summer, giving his personal assessment of the man.
So I want to thank Pastors Robert Morris and Steve Dullen. They're great people. Great people with a great reputation, I have to say that. Great reputation. And Gateway Church, the team has been incredible in hosting us.
Great reputation, he says.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
And I'd now like to ask Pastor Morris and Bishop Jackson to lead us in prayer.
Well, Robert Morris just resigned from his church following allegations that he sexually abused a child. In a statement to an evangelical news site, Morris said he was involved in an inappropriate sexual behavior with a young lady. Ugh. Those are his words.
Ugh.
He didn't mention that the young lady...
The way to describe that is not, that is, I mean, fact is there's no good way to describe that, but that is just wild. How could you be this age and think that this age is okay? Anybody? Okay, I'm at a loss for words.
The question was a 12-year-old girl. In his statement, Trump's one-time spiritual advisor admitted he continued to molest the child on, quote, several occasions over the next few years. Mike Hicksonbaugh is a senior investigative reporter for NBC News who's been all over this story. He writes about Pastor Morris in his book, They Came for the Schools, One Town's Fight Over Race and Identity and the New War for America's Classrooms, and he joins me now. Mike, this is something that happened a long time ago that we are learning about now. Take us through how this came out.
Well, last week, the survivor in this case, Cindy Clemishire, who has tried telling the story in different ways for years, came forward in a blog post and spelled out in very clear detail how when she was 12 years old on Christmas in 1982, Pastor Morris, who was a family friend then, a young traveling evangelist, invited her into his room, where he the guest room at her house, and proceeded to molest her, the first of several instances where he would do that over the next 4.5 years. And as you mentioned in the lead-in, Pastor Morris and Gateway Church responded initially by saying, this is an old sin. Pastor Morris has addressed this moral failure of this relationship with a young lady. And, he's repented, and this has been taken care of. Flash forward a few days, there was a lot of pressure around this when people...
Aren't I a good guy?
Started pointing out, yeah, the young lady was 12. That's a child. And yesterday he resigned from the church that he founded 20-plus years ago.
Now, he had been telling a sort of story about a kind of redemption arc, about stepping away from the ministry in the 1980s. Because he had been confronted by the then girl's father at that time. Is that right?
That's right. And I've been talking with former Gateway members and former pastors at the church. They talk about how he talked about this story all the time. And it became kind of like a signature part of his biography, that he had this moral failing when he was young. And it was around 6
A moral failing. Oh, God. You know, I think what he's about to say next is even more frustrating. I can't remember. I should have written down the spots that I wanted to look at, because watching this whole thing is rough. Like, what was I about to say? There was something I was about to say, and I've forgotten. Oh, God, I hate when this happens to me.
Sexual immorality with, again, a young lady. In some tellings, he would describe himself almost...
What I was going to say is, how are the evangelicals, all the MAGA folk, going to justify this one in their heads? That's one thing I'd really like to know. Left past 10 raid? Oh. That sounds very exciting, Donald James. I'll look out for that. But yeah, I mean, we hear them try to make sense in their brains of all sorts of really fucked up stuff that Donald Trump has done, among others. I'm just interested to see what they'll think about this, because I feel like this runs right up against all of their supposed beliefs, right? Like, look at the QAnoners, right? And like the Pizzagate stuff, you know? how can they be obsessed as they were with that and somehow justify this? I'm genuinely interested to see how that plays out.
As a victim, saying that the young lady had a Jezebel spirit and had tempted him, and in fact that she.
Yeah, sorry, Chad. I told you it was gonna be bad. A Jezebel spirit. Talk about, like, that is some biblical level victim blaming going on there. It is just wild. Who in their right fucking mind says that? Well, somebody who's not in their right mind and is, as a 20-year-old man, I can't even say it. It's disgusting. As a 20-year-old man is doing anything sexual with a girl, a 12-year-old girl, a child. It is gross. It is fucking gross. Hold on. I think there's another spot in here. Is this the one? Actually, no. This isn't. I don't think this is. Actually, hold on. Let me just double check this.
Robert Morris not being in leadership and kind of attacking the culture that allows this to permeate. But at the same time, lots of other people have watched as people like Robert Morris have warned that teachers and school librarians are a danger to children because and have used the language that they're grooming children because they have books on their shelves. Morris has preached about that from the pulpit and endorsed specific school board candidates who would fight against this.
This is amazing. I mean, this is maybe the quintessential example of right-wing projection, claiming everybody else is a groomer while you're molesting children. Just disgusting. Okay, that's it for that video. We're gonna move on. Goose for ba, everybody. Okay. Now, let's talk about a little individual by the name of Matt Gaetz, who witnesses have just said to House ethics committees that they paid Mr. Gaetz, that Mr. Gaetz paid them for sexual services.
More new developments today in the House Ethics Committee investigation into Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Sources tell ABC News that one woman testified under oath that she received a Venmo payment from Gaetz in exchange for sex. Those sources also say the committee has interviewed half a dozen women who say they attended parties with the congressman and were paid to be there by either Gaetz or his one-time close friend Joel Greenberg.
Oh, God.
Greenberg was sentenced.
I don't know why it's so amusing to me that he... but the fact that he paid for sex with Venmo, I mean, talk about innovative creepiness. Really impressive. Really impressive stuff. I don't know how this guy is still in Congress. It's really amazing what people in the Republican Party are just willing to either ignore or justify in their heads.
2022 to 11 years in prison after pleading guilty to numerous charges, including sex trafficking a minor. The Florida Republican denies all wrongdoing. These revelations come a day after the Ethics Committee said it was reviewing allegations that Gaetz engaged in sexual misconduct and illicit drug use.
Shocking. Wait, illicit drug use? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I wonder. Oh, no. He's just, No, you know what? I'm sure that there was a reason. It was probably because the drugs had a Jezebel spirit. Okay. By the way, Today I was shadow banned at the MR vote for flags. And tomorrow supposedly there may be rectifying of that, but as of now, my Vergonia flag is in limbo, putting me in a great deal of peril. Now let's talk about this. In New York, where Kathy Hochul has, if you haven't heard, decided to completely forget about COVID and other sorts of communicable diseases by way of air, has decided to propose a mask ban in New York City because of how little she cares for free speech and pro-Palestine protesters. So let's listen to this story really quickly.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul says she's considering a ban on face masks in the New York City subway system, unless worn for personal health or cultural reasons.
We will not tolerate individuals using masks to evade responsible for criminal or threatening behavior. My team is working on a solution, but on a subway, people should not be able to hide behind a mask to commit crimes. A group donning masks took over a subway cars, scaring riders and chanting things about Hitler and wiping out Jews. I don't need to say this again, but this is vile and disgusting behavior.
I'm a strong supporter of the decision of stopping masks on our subway system.
Shocking. I'm so shocked that Eric Adams wants to shut down people wearing masks. Because he's always basically just been a Republican who ran as a Democrat, right? This guy, the second that he can be like, oh, does anybody care about COVID? No? Okay, well, I'm super about not having masks on in any place, even in your home. He wants to install cameras in your home so that you just make sure that you don't wear a mask. For fuck's sake. You have faith? Someone suggested searching for flags. Okay, alright. Alright, I believe. Trying to believe. Maybe by the end of the stream I'll believe more. How far are we? Good God, this only took an hour and 15 minutes to get this far. But we still got more to go. Let's look at this. This is from Global News. Back to Canada, where apparently 25% of Canadians, or 1 in 4, are living in hidden poverty, according to a report from Canadian food banks.
Food insecurity isn't hidden at nonprofits trying to keep up with demand. This affordable produce market has more than doubled its patrons in 5 months of operation.
I see real life every day of people struggling and being hungry and being so grateful that a service like ours exists.
The disconnect between what those like Mandy Chapman see firsthand and Canada's official poverty rate of roughly 7% prompted a deeper dive into the problem.
What we're seeing on the ground is sort of, we feel should be reflected in what is being used to monitor progress in poverty reduction.
So experts went beyond just income and essentials and used what's called a material deprivation index. They factored in whether people can afford the things others take for granted, like owning a pair of well-fitted shoes, buying a small gift for family or friends once a year, or participating in special occasions. In the end, the report revealed Canada's hidden poverty rate of 25%.
We're looking at close to 10 million people. And
that is a frustrating statistic, and I feel like if America were to do a similar study, we would find that that our country has a very similar poverty rate. But yeah, this is a disturbing statistic. 25% of Canada? That's wild. Like he said, that represents millions of people. I'm glad you like the stream. I'm doing great. Thank you, BCat. Thank you. I'm trying my best. Trying my best. This next story is actually a positive story, so so get ready for that. Get ready for positive. This is from 20 hours ago, coming out of NBC LA, where permanent housing is to be unveiled on Skid Row.
And tackling the homeless crisis in the heart of Skid Row. That's the goal of a new housing complex in downtown LA. It has hundreds of units and apparently plenty of amenities. NBC4's Darsha Phillips live right now at City Hall. Darsha, you got an exclusive look inside of the building ahead of the big ribbon cutting tomorrow?
Yeah, that is correct, Colleen. We did get an exclusive look inside those units. The ribbon cutting ceremony will take place tomorrow. The mayor is expected to be there, and there will be tours of those units. Now, this is the largest permanent supportive housing in the city, and it will benefit those who are formerly unhoused. And the building itself changes the landscape of Skid Row.
This is just a great story. It's about time. It's about time that they actually, instead of trying to, demonize people on Skid Row, criminalize them, try and kick them out, give them housing. It's a crazy radical solution.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
What was I doing? Yes, no, we're gonna keep watching this. By the way, that's what I was gonna say.
Driving down Crockett Street, you're met with the
Wait for it.
And makeshift.
We are only one like away from a third support character. Just gonna point that out to you. Okay, someone has somehow forgotten to like the stream.
Homes synonymous with Skid Row, and now in the middle of it stands a towering 19-floor building.
Having this building here where it is changes the look and feel of Skid Row.
With 278 Section 8 units, the Weingart is the largest permanent supportive housing in Los Angeles.
If we get them off the street, that's a win. But we don't want to stop there.
Kevin Murray is the president and CEO of the Weingart Center, the organization behind this building.
This comes fully furnished with everything that someone would need to start a new life. Often people will not have pillows and bedding and sheets and towels.
The vision, he says, is to remove barriers that keep people on the streets.
They got a gym.
We take people with pets. We help them with veterinary care.
And make sure they want to stay housed.
Another thing which we are really proud of, you can see this says music room.
Music lessons, choir practice, an art room, a clubhouse, an outdoor space with breathtaking views.
They're human.
See, wait, let him finish.
That they deserve dignity.
Sorry, hold on.
With breathtaking views.
They're human beings.
Exactly.
That they deserve dignity just like every other human being.
The building.
100%. 100%. It's just so good to see somewhere America trying to actually deal with the homeless problem, the unhoused, by way of housing. I know it's radical, like Disco Wolf just said, but somehow that combination works. Don't ask me to explain it; it's a little too complex. But just rest assured, somebody somewhere did the math. It does in fact check out. Now here's another potentially small but important story in regards to housing, but on a different level. This is in Canada from 2 days ago, where May has seen its highest housing inventory since before the pandemic in 2019.
We have the latest snapshot for you now of the Canadian housing market. The Canadian Real Estate Association says the number of new listings ticked up in May, but national home sales are down from last May. CBC's Scott Peterson takes us through the numbers.
Even the Canadian Real Estate Association is calling these spring numbers for the month of May sleepy and uneventful, not exactly stellar terms from an organization that's in the business of selling real estate, but basically acknowledging that a lot of buyers are still shying away from entering this market because of high interest rates. Let's take a look at these numbers out from CREA just this morning as far as really a litmus test as far as the health of the home industry across Canada. Sales, first of all, a real harbinger of where prices are going to go, up 0.6% month over month for the month of May, but still 6% below this time last year. And this is also these sales levels that we're currently experiencing below long-term averages. At the end of May, 175,000 homes were listed for sale in the MLS system. That's up 28% over this time last year. Also, according to CREA, that we are looking at the highest amount of inventory out there for unsold homes going back to the fall of 2019, meaning there's more homes available.
So I looked into it, and it appears that this trend is also happening in the United States, where year over year prices are going down, listings are going up, but sales are also going down, which is going to put pressure on housing prices, rental prices, at some point, as long as we all attempt to seek the cheapest housing to some degree. But yeah, I just figured we'd look somewhat at the market forces. We're not going to go deep into this, but at least just keep ourselves aware of the current trend. Hopefully it continues in that direction, because people need houses, y'all. They need houses, they need places to live. Okay, now let's move on to this story of justice. I don't know what else to call it. This happened a day ago in, I think, Seattle. You'll see. You will see. A angry customer lashed out at a barista, like somebody, but it's a barista who works at like a drive-through window. This individual came, got out of his car and started throwing coffee at the window, and well, you'll see what happens next. Asshole. What an Get hammered. Get hammered, dude. This is some privileged bullshit right here. If you treat workers like this, you're a bad person. Write that down. Oh my God, Annie Fitzgerald. Aren't you running for Congress? You're near Seattle? Oh yeah, that's right. I think I remember that now. Real life banhammer. Exactly. You're banned. You're banned, dog. Let's go on to this one though, because they did an interview with her here at this this station, Creme 2. Let's hear her take.
Very much. Surveillance video from a South Seattle bikini barista stand going viral. It shows a customer throwing drinks at the barista seconds before she grabs a hammer and smashes his windshield. So according to the barista, Emma Lee, the man is a regular customer and was upset about the price of his order.
Oh my God.
He said he was threatening her. She said she posted the video to...
It's wild. How can you be a regular and then act this way? This is unbelievable. What kind of asshole behaves like this? This is childish.
Attention to women's safety in situations like this.
For a customer to get out of a vehicle in any sense, but especially to threaten, to argue, to any of those things, is so wildly inappropriate. What is going to happen next? What am I going to wait to have happen to have this be even more terrible story? I didn't need for it to get worse. It was bad enough. Everyone around was very concerned for me.
Right now, Seattle.
Yeah, thankfully there were people there who witnessed it, but just wow. What do you think the hammer's there for? That's the in case shit? Okay. Okay, Stefan has at least one answer. I could see that. I was going to say it was the ice hammer. Because, you know, they must have a cooler or like something like that somewhere. But it could be the in case shit hammer. Either way, solidarity with hammer woman there. So yeah, let's move along. Let's move along to this story about a different business disaster. This one relates to planes. We've been talking about Boeing for God knows how long, too long. First, let's look at this story from yesterday, because right before Boeing CEO Dickhead McGee went to testify in Congress, another Boeing whistleblower stepped forward to say that Boeing is using broken parts with full knowledge of it. I wonder why.
Breaking news as you wake up this morning, just hours ahead of a critical hearing on Capitol Hill involving Boeing. We're now learning that another internal whistleblower has stepped forward with several new allegations of fraud and deception, including claims that the company is using defective parts to build its 737 MAX airplane in Renton.
Let's get to King 5's Drew Andre. Drew, you just got a hold of this 200-page report from the Senate committee holding that hearing this morning. This whistleblower making some pretty inflammatory claims and still works at Boeing, right? What else is he saying?
Well, that's right, Jake. He says he witnessed the mishandling of parts of Boeing's Renton facility. In some cases,
yeah, Boeing is your district? Yeah, that's funny. One of my family members used to work at that very Boeing plant. I actually visited myself a long time ago when I was much smaller.
Done intentionally to hide improperly stored parts from the FAA. The whistleblower is a quality assurance inspector named Sam Mohawk.
That's not
the
good.
employee alleges that
that is not good. When you have the quality, this is I think this is the second quality insurance inspector who has come forward. At least the second. It might even be the third. I almost want to say it's the third, but I could be wrong. Either way, when you got the safety inspectors coming out in mass to say that shit's gone sideways, you got a problem.
Boeing is cutting corners, improperly tracking and storing parts that are either damaged or out of specification, and those parts are likely being installed on airplanes. The whistleblower also alleges that he's been told by supervisors to conceal evidence from the FAA during an audit. Now, Chairman of the Senate Investigations Committee, Democrat Richard Blumenthal, said, quote, "This is a culture that continues to prioritize profits, push limits, and disregard its workers, a culture where those who speak up are silenced and sidelined while blame is pushed down to the factory floor, a culture that desperately needs to be repaired." And just minutes ago, we heard from Boeing. A spokesperson told us, "We received this document late Monday evening and are reviewing the claims. We continuously encourage employees to report all concerns as our priority is to ensure."
Bullshit. That's bullshit. The fact is, I don't know how long ago it was. It was like I want to say a couple of years ago, not years, a couple of months ago, the beginning of all this. One of the original whistleblowers said that this is me nutshelling it, but he claimed that Boeing asked for safety for him specifically and for his department to stop being so specific with their claims about safety problems on aircrafts when they inspected it, because it was quote unquote too time consuming. Is that guy low-key laughing? I think he is. It did sound like he was straight up laughing. I mean, I'm laughing because I know what he's saying is false. They've been spending all their money on stock buybacks and CEO salaries. Wow, we got all the Brits in chat today. Not all of them, but many of them. Committee. That's for Boeing. Okay. Now, let's go to the CEO's testimony at Congress. This was Senator Josh Hawley, who we all know is a complete douchebag and sort of just an excuse for not just as a congressperson, but as a human being. But somehow, I think probably just due to the old adage that a broken clock is right twice a day, he managed to say some very prescient things to the Boeing CEO. In fact, if I wish I could follow up on some of these, but let's listen to this short snippet.
What is it that you get paid currently?
Good question.
Senator, that's well disclosed in our proxy documents in each of the years that I've been employed.
Yeah, but what is it?
It's a big number, sir.
Is it?
Well, let me help you out. It's $32.8 million this year. Does that sound right?
Oh boy.
Yes, it does.
That's a 45% increase over last year. Does that sound right?
It does sound
Yes, it does.
like a lot of money, doesn't it?
What do exactly?
I get paid to run the Boeing company.
Yeah. So just help me understand that. I mean, do you get paid for transparency? Is that one of the metrics for your income?
I think the board counts on me for transparency.
Really? Because you're under investigation for falsifying 787 inspection records. The Boeing's under criminal investigation for the Alaska Airlines flight. You were investigated by DOJ for criminal conspiracy to defraud the FAA. This is all in your tenure. This doesn't sound like a lot of transparency to me.
No,
so
it doesn't.
It's working out great for you. For the American people, they're in danger. For your workers, they're in peril. For your whistleblowers, they literally fear for their lives, but you're getting compensated like never before. Why haven't you resigned?
Great question.
Senator, I'm sticking this through. I'm proud of having taken the job. I'm proud of our
this
safety record, and
proud of this safety record
of our Boeing people.
You're proud of this safety record.
I have never in my life, I can say this hands down, I've never listened to a Josh Hawley statement that I agreed with, but there's a first time for everything, okay? And today he managed to get in there. Now, one thing I'd like to ask Josh here about CEO pay as it relates to safety, among other things, is whether or not he would like to apply this across the board, because I do think that perhaps the government should look at Elon Musk's pay package, where he's now paying himself as much as all of his workers combined, the 150,000 employees there at Tesla. Let's not forget, the man has other sources of income. So I'm just wondering, it's out loud right now about all of that. Now let's quickly go on to this from WRAL out of, I think, Raleigh. Fallout from Boeing CEO's testimony. Apologizes for quality and safety issues at Senate hearing. Oh boy.
Facing chance of shame, the CEO of America's biggest aviation company turned to face the anger. Family members holding photos of their loved ones who died in two MAX 8 crashes 5 years ago.
I'd like to apologize on behalf of all of our Boeing associates spread throughout the past.
Ew. I feel like he's blaming it on the workers right now. Am I wrong? All of our Boeing. You should apologize on behalf of yourself as the highest paid person in this company, who's supposed to be keeping it from, being a literal danger to the public. It just feels real gross to me.
Don't be creepy.
I couldn't help but laugh at this comment here from Robot Cat, waiting for him to turn it around and ask if DEI is to blame. That's the thing. When I clicked it originally, I was really thinking Josh was gonna go on the DEI track, but somehow he found the right road. I don't know how. I don't know who led him in the right direction today, because as we know, he usually wanders through life with some of the worst instincts for policy and governing known to man. But hey. I just found that apology to just be really lacking in any sort of thoughtfulness. Okay, what is next? What time is it? Let's see here. We're an hour and a half in. So I'm just going to take a quick break. We've still got a climate portion and global news portion to do today, but figured we'd break it up, hit you with a little bit of unfortunately necessary capitalist messaging. If you haven't already, hit that like button and do subscribe to my YouTube channel, as it really helps me out. The like, as it goes with the algorithm, and the subscriptions, because we need to get to 500, as I'm still not yet monetized on this goddamn platform, which we all love so much. It's a love-hate relationship for me right now, as it relates to that. That said, the one real good way available to you to help contribute to this here news network floating through the galaxy by going on to Patreon and becoming a galactic producer. For just a few dollars a month, you can get access to all sorts of space benefits unseen by the rest of the goddamn Milky Way galaxy. That said, if you don't want access to sweet benefits, such as adding GIFs and pics to these scenes you see in front of you, you don't want shoutouts, you don't want to be in a sweet Patreon community, or have access to the secret, so secret Discord, and among other things, that doesn't sound fun to you, well, fine. You can also go on a little channel, a website, app, known as Twitch, which I do happen to be monetized on, and you can gain access to like 30 sweet galactic emotes by subscribing over there. Anyways, enjoy this space intermission. I'll be right back. stream info. Well, it's gonna be a short break, everybody. We can get right back to it. I know it's not a normal break, but we have a lot of videos to go through today, so splitting it up in 3. Okay, where are we gonna start? Now, let's talk about AI really quickly here as a segue into our discussion of environmental news, as there are implications as it regards AI. As it regards to the environment. So I think we should look at this first, as Nvidia has now surpassed Microsoft as the world's largest company.
Nvidia has overtaken Microsoft and Apple to become the world's most valuable company. The chipmaker's share price climbed to an all-time high on Tuesday. The stock ended the trading day at nearly $136. That's up 3.5%. Nvidia, of course, makes computer chips needed for artificial intelligence software, and demand for its products has boosted its sales and profits over the last few years. Many investors believe its earnings can grow even more, which has caused its share price to soar, though some have questioned its sky-high valuation. Our business reporter, Suranjana Tiwari, has more.
Here's a whopping number for you, 591,000%. That's how much Nvidia stock has increased in value since it went public in the early 2000s. And now the chip company has surged its way all the way to the top of the stock market, dethroning another tech heavyweight, Microsoft, to become the world's most valuable company by market capitalization. And this just weeks after Nvidia was in 3rd place. It overtook iPhone maker.
Yep, overtook Apple, overtook Microsoft, and is now the world's largest company. I think it's worth nearly $2 trillion now. Whoops. There we go. Alright, now let's talk about AI as it relates to the environment. First, let's look at this from a day ago, where natural gas prices are surging as artificial intelligence boom raises the demand for it. Natural gas prices have surged over the past 3 months because of optimistic demand. Good. Demand driven by a boom in AI consumption and its crucial role in the renewable energy transition. Now, that crucial role in the renewable energy transition is a farce. It is it's a lie that we're telling ourselves, and well, it's being first told to us by big business, and then we're telling ourselves in some cases. But unfortunately, methane actually happens to be the thing we have to stop using the most right now, due to the fact that it could have the greatest impact on our environment in terms of reducing the current effects of climate change. We talked about it recently, and methane leaves the atmosphere much faster than the rest of greenhouse gases, but it's much more potent. So if we reduce how much of it we're using, we will in fact cool the planet. So, yeah, not good. Natural gas is expected to add 47 gigawatts per year. Okay. Over the period between 2024 and 2035. You gotta stop planning to add more to this, and that's exactly what everybody's doing. Because they've told themselves that somehow it's the solution. But it's not. Why there's so much crow talk in chat right now? Why are we talking about crows and corvids? Where did this come from? Okay. Now let's quickly look at this from Wyon from nearly a year ago. Uh-oh, don't. Why are you freezing? Oh God. Oh, no, I'm gone too far now. God damn it.
Now, the rapid ascent of artificial intelligence is causing waves on Wall Street and beyond. The tech-heavy Nasdaq is surging up 26% year-to-date, fueled by the frenzy over AI-related stocks. But this AI revolution comes at a significant cost: energy consumption. Studies from the University of Washington reveal that AI models like ChatGPT can consume an astonishing 1 gigawatt-hour of energy per day, which is equal to the power consumption of 33,000 US households. While the rise of AI usage, particularly in data centers, has led to a major increase in energy demands, this trend poses a challenge as it outpaces the growth rate of renewable energy deployment. While major cloud providers like Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and Amazon Web Services invest in renewable energy to match their electricity consumption and pledge carbon neutrality, the disparity between data center energy growth and renewable.
Now, that was just the statistic for one company, right? One company, their usage was 33,000 gigawatt hours, or no, I'm sorry. No, 33, it was the same usage as 33,000 American homes, or a gigawatt hour of usage per day, right? But scale that over all of the different AIs and you start to see the broader picture, right? It becomes massively problematic just for energy consumption. They're talking about trying to essentially replace that need, create more methane emissions just to feed that business need or desire. And as you can see, if you start adding that up over all the different companies, got a lot of problems there. Apple's starting their own AI called Apple Intelligence. There's Google's what is that one? I can't remember now. There's a bunch more too. And every single company is seemingly trying to find a way to get their own sort of AI integrations into the things that they're doing, right? And so we just have to consider what that means and how we're going to somehow still even, because the problem is we're already talking about not hitting climate goals that we had set up, right, from like 15, 20 years ago now, right? And we're surpassing all of them in a bad way, right? And we just don't need to be adding more to this equation if we're not even dealing with what we're already consuming in a sustainable way. We're destroying our climate. We're watching it actively on this channel every fucking day. Now, let's get on to some current events regarding climate. First, we're going to start with this one where Richmond city leaders, I think this is in Canada, this is in California, are voting to put Chevron refinery business tax on the ballot. So people will be able to vote for this in the town who are being affected by this most, or city.
Well, developing overnight, the city of Richmond has pushed forward with a plan that could cost one of the area's largest employers tens of millions of dollars a year. Today in the Bay's Bob Riddell joins us live this morning. And
I love how NBC puts it that way. It's like, one of the largest employers are going to be fined money potentially because they've been harming people. So sad.
Now it is up to those voters to decide whether to tax Chevron. This is for the alleged harm it's caused by its oil refinery.
Correct. Good morning to Marcus. Good morning to Laura. Late last night, the Richmond City Council voted unanimously 7-0 to put on a November ballot a measure that, if approved by voters, could tax Chevron tens of millions of dollars a year. You should be able to hear the audience applause. There it is. Their audience applause of.
Chevron can afford tens of millions of dollars a year. Let's be real. Let's be really real. Let's be so real about this. Chevron's revenue in 2024 was $198 billion. I think they can afford a few million.
Approval during this late night vote in city council chambers. Environmentalists and other citizens seen here rallying before the vote proposed this measure to tax every barrel of oil that arrives at the Chevron Richmond refinery to be refined. Now, this new money would go to the city's general fund. Backers of the measure hope some of that money would be used to help offset the costs of dealing with the health and environmental problems caused by pollution from the refinery. One woman who grew up near the refinery says there are too many cases of cancers and asthma in her family and neighbors for there not to be a link, even though medical.
Absolutely. And we actually watched a story about this very situation in Richmond. Now I remember it. Yeah, and there's been some pretty clear evidence that people in this area are being affected with much higher cancer rates than anywhere else in the country that isn't directly next to a fucking refinery. Chevron can afford to be nationalized. I would love to see that. I would genuinely enjoy that. God, seriously though, 128. No, it was more than that. What did I say it was? It was more than that. It was hundreds of billions of dollars revenue from last year. They're complaining about $10 million. Oh my god. Oh my god, this is Chevron.
Help! I'm being repressed!
Okay, now let's move on. Because there's some pretty crazy weather happening all over the United States. But first, we're going to talk about the West. Actually, wait, no. Wait. No, we got to talk about Canada. Actually, no, this is in the wrong spot. Let me put this down here. Take it back. We're not going to talk about Canada first. Sorry, Chad. Didn't mean to debate you with the Canadian story. It's coming later. Yeah, so yeah. Let's start in essentially the very northwest. If you discount Alaska, pretty much the very furthest northwest you can get in this country. Where in somewhere in Washington, I don't know exactly where this is, but there is a fire burning called the Pioneer Fire, which is in a very difficult to access location, so it is causing some difficulty for firefighters to get to it and put it out. So it is currently burning pretty much unabated. And, well, this is just one of many fires that are currently burning the West Coast.
Well, developing overnight.
No, this is the wrong one. There we go. Fixed it.
Pioneer fire near the north shore of Lake Chelan is burning in such a remote area. Fire officials now say it may be burning until Halloween. It is still 0% contained. These are new photos of the fire, which has now burned more than 3,800 acres. There is work underway right now to recommission old roads near the fire to get more crews on the ground. With challenges on the terrain, firefighters have been forced to attack the fire by boat and air. Crews are dropping more than 100,000 gallons of water on that fire a day. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
Hold on. Just realized we have we have 30 likes. So what's that? A 19. Who's 19? Wharf. Very nice. I'll take that. Oh no, my stream software is freezing. We're only 2 hours into this. Come on, Streamlabs. Be better than this. Be better. Well, Wharf will pop up once my stream software decides to stop being frozen. It's in Eastern Washington. Thank you for the information. Now, let's go slightly south to Northern California. We talked about this fire, which is in Calaveras County outside of Sacramento. This fire has really picked up and has burned over 5,000 acres now, and is still not close to being fully contained yet, at least from what I understand. This is from about this time yesterday.
Fox 40 is on fire watch tonight. A number of wildfires burning across California this evening, especially here in Northern California. Crews in Sacramento, Calaveras, Colusa, and Sonoma counties are working around the clock to tackle several fires. This all comes as Northern California's first red flag warning of 2024 saw perfect conditions for flames to be sparked. Thanks for joining us tonight for Fox 40 News at 10. I'm Nikki Lorenzo.
And I'm Eric Harriman. Fox 40 has team coverage for you tonight at 10. Dennis Shanahan reporting from Sacramento County, where fire crews have been working all day, tackling several grass fires in our area. Also, Chief Meteorologist Adam Epstein tracking these very fiery and warm conditions from here in the studio in the Weather Center. We'll check in with Adam in just a minute with more on what we can expect, Adam, with this red flag warning as well. But first, let's get you out live to Fox 40's Rowena Shaddix, who is in Calaveras County here at 10 o'clock. We know the Arrow Fire is what it's being called, Row, and it has jumped to more than 5,000 hours. That number just within the last hour or so.
What? You mean acres?
Well, Nikki and Eric, yes, 5,000 acres. That is a lot that has burned in just a little bit of time. We are on Highway 4, which is actually closed to the general public. There's a lot of firefighters that are using this roadway. And behind me, you can see that firefighters are putting out spot fires. That's what they have to contend with. This is an area that has already burned up, but those fire flames just keep shooting back up. The winds are a big contributor and something that firefighters are going to be dealing with throughout the night. CAL FIRE attacked the fire quickly, battling flames from the ground and in the air with multiple aircraft. Joyce and Rob Vonderleith's ranch in Salt Springs Valley is directly across from where the fire initially started just before 3:30 p.m. Not our first road.
Okay. More to look at with this.
That containment has been 23%. It will not be changed throughout the night. At least the numbers won't until tomorrow morning. All good news. And this area that we're standing in, it's literally just off of Highway 4, which continues to be closed to the public. This is an area that has been very busy since this fire began. It overlooks a canyon here. We haven't seen a lot happening this afternoon. There were water drops consistently, but there is a unit behind me that is keeping a watchful eye. It's a scene played out countless times since the Arrow fire broke out Monday afternoon. Helicopters and Chinooks dropping water on hotspots and active areas where the fire had passed.
Yeah, so this thing's been going for nearly 3 full days now. It's only 23% contained according to them, but this is from 20 hours ago. So it may be in better containment now. That's just me being hopeful for the people of Calaveras County and the others that are being affected by this fire. So I can't say that that's definite in any way. But there's a bunch more just knocked my vape off the table. That's good. Good job, me. What was I saying? Oh yeah, there's a bunch more fires currently happening in the United States. Let's just go slightly south in California, down here, where the post fires, which we were talking about yesterday, and another fire are all still burning. Let's go to this next one.
It's very hard waiting. You know, it's very scary. We didn't sleep at all last night.
Well, this morning, residents living near the Arrow fire in Calaveras County waiting to get back home once again. And evacuation orders continue as the weather conditions shift. Welcome back to ABC 10 Morning News. I'm Jordan Tolbert.
I'm Conchetta Callahan. The firefight across our state has made significant progress, but the danger isn't over. Take a look.
So currently, firefighters are battling the post fire in Southern California along I-5, which has burned over 15,000 acres. It's now...
Wow, this is a disturbing infographic. You add these up, it's 35,000 plus acres that have already burned. They've been burning for over the last 3 days. And by the way that they do these things, I think that means that, you know, nearly that much is also still burning or close to it, and the maximum containment is 31%, and with the minimum being 5, which might as well be 0. I'm not gonna lie. It's a galactic tradition to knock my vape off the dead. So true. That is very true. No truer thing has been said this stream.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th
39%
century.
contained, and the Sites fire in Colusa County is also over 15,000 acres, but with 5% containment. Meanwhile, progress has been made against the Arrow fire. It's now 33% contained with over 5,000 acres burned, but the danger is not over.
We've made significant progress on stopping the spread of the fire, but the conditions are still dynamic out there. This fire is still burning out of control.
Well, CAL FIRE wants to reiterate that it is important that people continue to obey evacuation orders.
Yeah, stay safe. Oh, God. I feel hot just watching these. Okay, let's just, look at this. This is the Point Fire, which we were also talking about yesterday. This one's outside of San Francisco. And it is now 50% contained. So there's been some actual progress on this one. I think it was only 30% contained when we were looking at this yesterday. So that's definitely good progress. I'll take it.
Are fanning the flames of wildfires in Sonoma County and other parts of the state. People have been forced out of their homes, and firefighters worry conditions are not improving. Evacuation orders remain in effect as firefighters try to get a grasp on the point fire burning north of Healdsburg. Good evening. I'm Greg Lee.
And I'm Julie Hayner. The latest update from CAL FIRE shows the fire now is 20% contained. It's burned just under 1,200 acres since it started yesterday. More than 400 personnel are on the scene along with 4 helicopters. CAL FIRE says air tankers from across the state are also flying missions.
Oh, I forgot. This is the older video. This is the more recent video. That says 20% contained. Sorry. This is the newer one.
Story that we're still following the wildfires, and crews are making progress on the point fire burning near Lake Sonoma. It's 50% contained at this hour. It started Sunday, and in 24 hours, it spread to 1,200 acres and destroyed 2 homes. 1 firefighter was injured, but will be okay. We'll continue to follow that.
Well, an air quality advisory now in effect because of the poor air quality conditions from these wildfires. Officials say you might smell smoke up in Sonoma, Napa, Solano counties, Lake County, things like that. Closer to the heart of the bay, we're doing okay. The sea breeze is keeping it clear, but obviously the closer you are to those fires, the worse the air quality is going to be for you.
Yeah, I've actually seen a story on that, Annie, regarding prisoners fighting fires. I have heard of an innovative program where they're allowing firefighters to drastically reduce their sentences by fighting fires. But yeah, I think they're almost always unpaid. I mean, not all the firefighters are, in fact, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, that exists, but then there's also the regular firefighters, so there's a kind of a mixed bag of people out there fighting these fires. Now, granted, they've all been trained, but it is sort of an interesting dynamic when you think about the fact that there are prisoners out there doing these things. Thought I was about to say the pores. I was not going to say that. Okay, now there was another fire south of the Point Fire, not in California, but in Phoenix. We saw a different one in Phoenix yesterday, which was a mulch fire. This was a brush fire, and just somebody's like yard, it appeared. Oh, there we go. We got Wharf now. And so they do eventually put this out. As you'll see here, it's like a 30-minute drone video or something, or like a helicopter. But yeah, thankfully, eventually this fire was put out. But this is just, you know, just one in many examples of fires that just seemingly broke out in the west of the United States here. Now, I predicted this yesterday, but because of the fact is we only saw the interviews of this yesterday because they had no camera crews on location at the time. But we're gonna go slightly east to New Mexico, where we're gonna look at this wildfire that we were talking about yesterday. Outside of not outside of in Ruidoso, New Mexico, as you'll see here shortly. This one's rough.
And there's another fire over here as well. There's 2 ongoing fires right now.
A rapidly growing wildfire has forced the evacuation of a town in New Mexico. That's Ruidoso. Please do not try to gather belongings or protect your home. Go now. Authorities posted on Facebook. That is a concerning message from authorities. Makes you, as a person who doesn't use Facebook very often, it makes me wonder if I'm underutilizing it. The South Fork fire was first detected on Monday morning west of Ruidoso. It has since grown to over 2,000 hectares, officials say. Now, hold on, we have a bunch more to look at this. As this isn't just in the surrounding forest. This has... The evacuation was because this was going directly at this town. And as you'll see here shortly, I think thousands of structures have now been lost, essentially. Essentially wiping out the whole town, like, off the map. But first, we just got a bunch of videos to look at, so let's just go to this next one. Also, there's also an interview with this fucking guy. Oh, God.
Continuing to follow evacuations involving two wildfires almost next to each other, the South Fork and Salt Fire. These images showing us just how dangerous the flames are as residents head for shelter. We've been following this all afternoon. We have a crew in the area right now. However, cell phone coverage is so bad we can't get a hold of them.
And viewers have been sending us pictures and video of what's going on there. In these images, you can see the flames and the excessive smoke covering the village and all areas around it. The fire triggering a series of evacuations. We spoke with one family as they were preparing to leave their home behind.
And this is very scary right now. You know, we just, it's just there's too many of these that are happening too often now. But yeah, I just feel that hopefully everything will work out. They'll get it under control. They'll get it out. And with hopefully certainly no loss of life. And if we can hope for it, no loss of property as well.
So, unfortunately, that's not the case, or that's not what winds up happening in this situation. Let's keep moving forward chronologically through this. This is rough. This is one of the older videos.
We were at the church for a little while, and then when we're heading home, we noticed the smoke was behind our house area, and you could smell it, see it.
You could see the tankers coming over.
Tankers flying over, helicopters, everything.
The reason for the update is to alert people that these are very serious fires. Traveling in and around that southeastern part of the state is not only not allowable right now with road closures, but it's discouraged even where roads are open. Second reason is to let you know that 20,000 plus acres, 0% containment.
This fire is dangerous
0%.
and fast moving. The winds are strong. They're not quite at the red flag level, but they are close. And the fire...
All right, we're going to keep pushing through this. That one was also from a day ago, but things have progressed with this. This is from 15 hours ago now. This was an interview on CNN with the man who had to flee with his family. According to him, quote unquote, we didn't get a warning.
The wildfires in New Mexico, look at these pictures, incredible pictures, and has turned deadly and has taken thousands of homes and businesses. With me now is Eric Morrow, who lives in Ruidoso, New Mexico. You experienced this and had to...
So yeah, I mean, we heard that man speaking at the beginning, hoping for no loss of property. Well, thousands of homes and buildings burnt down in what is a pretty small town, so that represents most of what is there.
Evacuate. Can you give us some sense of how you heard about it and then what you did immediately upon hearing that the fire was too close for comfort?
Well, I was on my app the whole time, the watch through the app, really paying attention to, how close it was getting and stuff, because it started not too far from where we're at. And when I was getting home from work, I had already seen the smoke. I started panicking, went straight to my house. And we were there, it was already smoking and stuff, so we kind of started getting things together. I looked at the wind direction and stuff and where the fire was at, and I said, it's coming straight towards us. And so we were a little concerned. We started kind of packing things up. And I was paying attention to the phone, the duty app, and we didn't get a warning. All of a sudden, the firefighters showed up blaring their horn, sound immediate evacuate immediately. And so we just grabbed whatever we had at that moment, packed and stuff, and we left.
It's such a terrifying.
The roads were
thing.
already shut off.
Yeah. How did you? Yeah. I always wonder this, having covered these fires across the West, mostly in California. What do you pack? What are you thinking about? What are you trying to potentially save, knowing that you are breathing in the smoke already? It's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I was gagging already from the smoke, and we grabbed the most important things like documents, passports, birth certificates, some photos.
Oh my fucking God. That is terrifying.
Things like documents, passports, birth certificates, some photos, photo album that my mother left me, stuff like that. Left behind my class ring, a favorite T-shirt that I've had for over 25 years. Some stuff like that kind of got left behind. But we just try to take important documents, and I got this shirt donated to me by the church.
This guy had to leave everything in his life behind, aside from a photo book and passports. Him and his family, and apparently they just moved into the house in March. They just bought the house. It's frustrating story. We're not done because we gotta look at some of the rest of this, some of this footage from later. Yeah. Let's go to this one. Okay, here we go.
It's a little emotional. Yeah, but other than that, we're alive, we're okay.
The wildfires surrounding the Ruidoso area have now claimed one person's life. The governor's office confirming the tragic news yesterday afternoon.
Well, this as both the South Fork and Salt fires continue to scorch through neighborhoods. Nearly 1,400 homes and businesses have been damaged or destroyed due to the fire, and about 8,000 people have been evacuated from the area. Both fires combined have now burned well over 23,000 acres as of this morning, with still 0% containment.
Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham issued an executive order declaring a state of emergency in Lincoln County and the Mescalero Apache Reservation. The order will free up additional funding and resources to help fight the blaze.
Well, the governor has deployed the National Guard to the area to help wherever needed, and additional New Mexico State Police are being dispatched.
Have two devastating, enormous fires. And when I say enormous, it means that they're getting more and more complicated to address. Every resource available while we combat these fires is available. More than 17 agencies are on the ground working together, both federal and state.
And this is a live look outside of Ruidoso Village this morning, where, as we've mentioned, thousands were forced to leave everything behind.
KTSM spent time with people who escaped the fires and are now waiting for word on if their homes and businesses survived the flames. Our investigative director, Andrew Litton.
So we just looked at, it said there's 35,000 acres burning in California, and there's 23,000 acres burning in New Mexico.
Us their story and how the community of Roswell is helping them out.
The community of Roswell coming together to help their neighbors.
From dog food to toiletries, diapers, clothes, and food. Bringing things that they feel that the people from Ruidoso are needing.
Wildfires forcing so many out of their homes, made to escape down the mountain to Roswell, where half a dozen shelters open to welcome Ruidoso evacuees.
We have 200 or so empty cots ready to go, plenty of food, volunteers, staff, so we're set.
Roswell residents saying people aren't the only ones needing shelter. Animals, too, being towed to safety, and they all come with unique challenges.
Yeah, some people don't know where you take your animals. We had somebody that was staying outside of the university, and they were staying in the car because they didn't know that we had a place to take animals and dogs and cats.
While Roswell comes...
Hello, Morbius. Good to see you. It's lagging on this screen, but it's not lagging over there. Weird. Okay. Well, as long as it looks fine on the stream. Oh, God. Alright, this is the last story about this fire. For now.
And good evening, New Mexico. It's like living in one of those end-of-the-world movies, or the village is a ghost town. That's just two of the things we are hearing tonight about one of the most beautiful places in the entire state. That would be Ruidoso. Two massive wildfires are still burning there tonight. Thousands of people have had to simply leave the village and surrounding areas. We've also confirmed that one person has died. Those two fires are still burning out of control. Now, we want to give the people who live in the metro a little bit of perspective on just how big the fires are. When you add the acreage of both the South Fork and Salt fires, we're talking, as the governor mentioned, about more than 20,000 combined acres. That's approximately 32.5 square miles. That red box on the screen now shows just how much of Albuquerque these two fires combined would cover. You could say that.
Wow. I didn't realize how close it is to... Actually, no, I guess they're talking about a different spot, aren't they? I don't know the area well enough. I think it's supposed to be Albuquerque News, so they're just using it as a representation.
Pretty decent majority of the Northeast Heights. Tonight we're bringing you complete team coverage of those wildfires, starting off with our very own Griffin Rushton. He joins us live from ENMU Roswell, which is just one of the many evacuation centers that is welcoming Ruidoso residents again tonight. Griffin.
Yeah, that's right, Trevor, and it is busy. There are at least 120 evacuees here tonight, and many, many more will be spending the night at nearly a dozen other evacuation shelters across southeast New Mexico. Now, that's more than we typically see during these wildfire events, but this is not a typical crisis. There are two wildfires essentially surrounding Ruidoso tonight. The South Fork fire on the north side and the Salt fire on the south side. Together, as we mentioned, they've scorched nearly 21,000.
Oh, this makes it so that practically any wind the direction blows. You got a problem. Oh my God. This is even worse than I thought. I didn't see this map earlier.
Acres so far, which is a relatively small size compared to New Mexico's recent historic wildfires, but these have been incredibly destructive wildfires. According to the most recent update, fire officials estimate these fires have destroyed at least 1,400 homes or other structures, and you can see some of that damage in this video we took driving down Gavilan Canyon Road earlier this afternoon. Now, that number is almost certainly going to go up in the coming days as crews start to thoroughly assess the damage. Now, as we mentioned, we saw some of that damage firsthand today, and I can tell you, it is startling to see just how much has gone in just the first 24 hours since the village was evacuated. The embers are still hot in Ruidoso. Valleys of scorched trees dotted with sizzling homes, all while fire crews continue their battle on the ground and from the sky. This is what's left of what appears to have been a motel here in Ruidoso, less than 24 hours after the village was evacuated. You can see this building is just now a pile of rubble, and you can see there's even smoke still coming up out of the damage. Now, this fire moved incredibly incredibly fast, and you can see that in this parking lot. There are several cars that are just molten really into the parking lot as the fire came through, and you can see just how hot it was burning with this evidence right here of what was at one point liquid metal coming out of this car.
Yeah. This is a really unfortunate story, and it doesn't appear that it's going to doesn't appear like we've seen the end of it. I feel like we're going to be talking about this for a number of days. Okay. We're going to move on. I really hope those people are managing to stay safe. Gotta do something about those fires. It's like a fire bread sandwich. And it's not a good situation. I didn't even realize there was a second town on the other side of that highway. Oh, God. Okay, you forgot to like. My God, you've been here so long. We're almost at 40 likes. That's wild. Is there a cat? Is there a cat on the space station? Okay, now let's go to the Midwest. Now, this fire is not necessarily related to climate change, but I figured since we were talking about the United States on fire, we would just look at this, where Chicago firefighters are fighting a massive blaze at a building supply shop. Good God. Holy fuck. Place is just filled with fuel. It's a building supply shop. There's just probably like just filled with wood. Other sorts of flammable shit. Yeesh. Okay. I don't think all that burning's great for the environment. Speaking of the environment, everybody else who isn't currently staring at fires is dealing with a different kind of heat, as a extreme heat wave has been going through both the central and northeastern United States, where it is setting records in multiple states.
U.S. cities are breaking decades-old temperature records this week as a heat wave stretches from central to eastern parts of the country. That's according to the National Weather Service on Tuesday, in what officials are warning could become a deadly weather event. Roughly 80 million people from Indiana to New England are under a heat advisory or excessive heat warning.
This is going to be one for the ages.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul activated the state's Emergency Operations Center in response to high temperatures expected to last until the weekend. She announced on Tuesday that the state's beaches and public pools will open early, in time for people to enjoy them over Wednesday's Juneteenth holiday. High temperatures can cause dehydration, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke, and worsen pre-existing conditions like cardiovascular problems. Chicago registered 97 degrees Fahrenheit at its O'Hare International Airport on Monday, breaking a record set in 1957.
Wow. So yeah, breaking nearly 100-year-old temperature records. Just all over the place in the United States. Not great. You heard that it snowed in Montana? I did not, but that sort of fits with the insanely strange weather we've been having lately. Let's move on to this. Talking about how the heat wave in Canada may last until Sunday in some parts of Canada.
Well, Environment Canada has just issued an update on the heat wave impacting millions of Canadians, and CBC's Sarah Galashan is monitoring that from our breaking news desk and joins us with the details. So, Sarah, what did officials have to say?
Jacqueline, they talked a lot about this slow-moving ridge of high pressure that is responsible for the heat that central Canada and into Atlantic Canada are experiencing right now. Not only is it very hot, you're talking about the temperatures, but also there's the humidity on top of that, and it's creating a very muggy feeling. Very difficult to get relief from that, they're saying, and this will be a known experience for anyone who's going through it, but difficult to get relief because in the evening, because this is this heat event, the temperatures are not dipping by more than about 4 to 5 degrees. So there's not a lot of relief happening at night. Let's talk about exactly who this is affecting. We're seeing heat warnings and alerts throughout central Canada, Ontario, Quebec, into the Atlantic provinces as well. The map showing a lot of red there when you look at it. So for all of those people, obviously, any information you might be able to get about how much longer this is going to last, that's what everyone is sort of on the edge of their seats waiting for. They did talk about that, so let's play that clip.
Good news, though, the above normal temperatures are expected to ease on Friday, with the exception of extreme southern Ontario, where the above normal heat and humidity will linger until late Sunday. But until...
So yeah, it's hot. And not just in the United States, borders don't dictate weather. Canada is also getting hit by the heat. Now, let's continue on to the BBC here, where according to them, 1 in 5 people in the United States will be facing extreme heat alerts all week.
Extreme weather is affecting different parts of the globe. But in the US in particular, more than 70 million people, that's 1 in 5 Americans, are under heat alerts this week. Extreme temperatures reaching as high as 105 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas. Forecasters are warning that the early summer heat wave could be the longest in decades. An approaching heat dome threatens to bring record-setting temperatures across the Midwest and Northeast for up to a week. Meanwhile, in California, wildfires near Los Angeles continue to burn out of control as firefighters struggle to contain the flames. And in the state of New Mexico, wildfires have been burning through 20,000 acres, impacting at least 500 structures and forcing thousands to evacuate. Let's speak to Yasmin Ansari.
Is it lagging for people? It's looking weird on my screen. I can't tell if it's lagging for you people or not.
Yes.
Whoops.
There's a former Vice Mayor of Phoenix, Arizona, and the former UN Climate Advisor. Hello, welcome to the program. Arizona, of course, well-known desert area. I wonder if we could first start off with a heat dome. What do we mean by that?
The heat dome discusses what is happening in the atmosphere, whereas the impact on the ground is talking about a heat wave. As you mentioned, right now in the United States, we are seeing heat emergencies being declared across the United States, in particular in the Northeast, as the heat index is hitting triple digits. Here in Arizona, we are very much used to extreme heat, but in many of these places in the United States where there's also the humidity aspect, many are feeling very challenging times. And so we're seeing leaders begin to declare those emergencies. disease and acting as such.
So one.
Yeah. Okay. I think we get it.
So hot right now.
It is lagging for you? See, that's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. I might have to address some settings. Not today, but I guess tomorrow. If we'll even be around tomorrow, who knows? Might get blasted out of this spaceship. Okay. Now, we were talking about this and the potential for an actual tropical storm to form in the Gulf of Mexico as well as on the coast of Florida. Well, the one in the Gulf has in fact turned into a tropical storm. It is not yet, did not become a hurricane, so it probably will not, as it has now made landfall in Texas. This is from 8 hours ago.
So the system we've been looking at in the Gulf for the last couple of days now is a tropical storm, as we expected, but that really doesn't change anything in terms of the impacts. We were already seeing impacts along the Texas coast in terms of, some strong winds. There was coastal flooding this morning, heavy rainfall, flood watches and warnings in effect. So those conditions are going to continue through the day today, into tonight, and even into Thursday, as the center of Alberta is, even though it's going to stay pretty far south of the Rio Grande and make landfall in northern Mexico early Thursday, those impacts are going to continue to extend hundreds of miles north of the center. We could see it strengthen a little bit. Right now, the peak winds are about 40 miles per hour. That could get up to 45 or 50 miles per hour before landfall. It's actually kind of about right on schedule for the first named system on average in the Atlantic is actually June 20th. So we're at June 19th. So this is pretty typical to have a named storm.
Yep. Although it is supposed to be a very active hurricane season, it has not yet come to fruition. Knock on wood. So this is in Corpus Christi, Texas. You can see the waters going over the flood walls. Oh, yeah.
Right there, we can get about to that.
This guy brings out the kayak. Classic. Ducks are happy. Let's go straight to this one. This is the last of our stories about this tropical storm.
It's official. We've now got our first named storm of this hurricane season. Tropical storm Alberto formed this morning off the coast of Mexico. It's bringing heavy rainfall, strong winds, and flooding to parts of Texas. Several communities are already feeling the impacts of this. This is what it looks like in Galveston today. Roads closed due to coastal flooding. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicting a very active season, between 17 and 25 named storms yet to come.
Yep, supposedly, according to data. I think it was from the NOAA who said that first. Alright, let's go south. As in Chile, they were hit by a very unexpected tornado, as Chile does not get a lot of tornadoes. This is from a day ago.
Esta era la pieza de mi nieta.
Ya,
This is my
afortunadamente
granddaughter's
ella no
room.
estaba durmiendo
Luckily,
aquí,
she wasn't
estaba
sleeping here.
durmiendo
She was sleeping in
en
another
el
bedroom.
dormitorio de
She said
ellos.
that a frightening
Y
rumbling
dice que
woke them up and they saw
cuando
that the
despertaron
two
con este
rooms were left
estruendo que
without a
fue
roof.
espantoso, vieron que las dos piezas estaban sin
Yeah,
techo.
that would be surprising.
Nos resguardamos nomás y esperamos que
just took shelter and
pasara.
waited
Y
for
claro,
it to
cuando
pass.
después salimos a la
And,
calle y
of
vimos que
course,
mucha gente
when
había
we went
salido,
out into the street
nos
and saw that
empezamos a dar
many people
cuenta
had also come out,
de
we
que
began
había
to
árboles
realize that there were
caídos,
trees down
postes también sacados de cuajo.
and poles had been uprooted.
Empezamos a
We
dimensionar
started
lo
to
que
get an
había,
idea of what had
qué podía haber
happened.
ocurrido, en verdad.
I'm as surprised as you, Afroponics. Tornadoes in Chile. It's real. That's real. That's just real news. Okay. Now, I skipped over El Salvador. Well, let's go to this. Going to El Salvador here, where apparently 11 people have died so far in events related to heavy rains in the country. Oh my god. That house is done. Oh, it never stops. We really need to change the way that we are living our lives in this earth, or this shit's just gonna keep getting worse. So yeah, United States isn't the only one dealing with stuff. Everybody else is dealing with stuff too. And this is just weather. Oh god.
Climate and everything are the same word.
That's factually inaccurate. Be quiet, Jordan. Go back to your little supply closet. Okay. Alright, let's look at this story. As it is involving something very important, that being the global food supply. You know, like whatever you ate today. That's what we're talking about. This is from CBS News from 2 days ago. The race to save fertile land as soil degradation threatens the global food supply. It's a cheery title.
I don't want reality.
June 17th marks World Day to combat desertification and drought. A reminder that the fight for healthy soil is a race against time. Every second, about 4 football fields worth of healthy land becomes degraded and low quality, posing a risk to global food supply. About 52% of the Earth's agricultural land is already in this infertile state, according to the Save Soil movement, citing data from the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. If the current trend holds, 95% of the Earth could be degraded by 2050. Martin Frick joins me now.
Oh, God. This statistic should genuinely make everybody very, very concerned. If it doesn't, well, you're not paying attention. I think most of us would like to think we'll still be alive in 25 years, but that's exactly how long we're talking about here. And if we don't do something immediately, the implications of these sorts of things will become more and more dire, right? They compound the stuff that we've been doing has been compounding upon itself and causing these problems, and the more that we add to these sorts of piles of bad stuff that we're doing, and don't reverse these trends, the more likely that these scenarios are going to play out. But hold on, I just want to look at this statistic they threw our way at the beginning here again, just because I found this to be pretty concerning.
Becomes degraded and low quality, posing a risk.
Wait, no, hold on. Go back.
Fight for healthy soil is a race against time. Every second, about 4 football fields worth of healthy land becomes degraded and low quality.
Every second, 4 football fields become degraded. There's 4, there's 4, there's 4, there's 4, there's 4, there's 4, there's 4. That's bad. I hate that. I hate that. We're going to stop doing that, but holy fuck. Just remember that. Write that down.
That soil.
It would basically mean, John, a total collapse of the global food production. What we are seeing today, as you said, is a loss of 4 football fields a second. That translates into a loss of the entire size of Egypt a year. Still, we are producing enough food, but if this continues unchecked, our food production will be severely impacted.
And why is this happening? What's causing this to happen?
Well, it's a mix of things. It's basically unadapted agriculture. It's cutting down on trees. It's large-scale industrial agriculture. And often it's conflict. And on top of everything else, there's climate change just making agriculture more difficult than it ever was before.
So does that mean there is a potential solution if the agriculture becomes more mindful, that you can't just gobble it all up, that you have to think about agriculture as a sustainable process? Does that mean that the possibility this trend can be reversed is out there?
Totally. There's a giant opportunity here. And we are not only talking food production, we are talking bringing back biodiversity, which sometimes sounds like a luxury, but we are part of biodiversity. And with the rate of biodiversity dying, we are endangered as a species ourselves. But there's also climate change, which basically means there's just too much carbon in the atmosphere and way too.
Yeah, I think this is what happens when people hear about like coral dying, right? They see coral as being this sort of niche in the ocean, pretty to look at, but what does it do? Oh, wait, it actually houses and feeds the very bottom of the food chain and is a integral part in the existence of all marine life. But I feel like humans struggle to see these sorts of broad sort of like macro, or you know what I mean, like how it all adds up to a macro picture, if you will.
Carbon in the soils. If we succeed bringing it back down, we have a quick and a working solution to the climate crisis at our hands.
Back on the biodiversity topic, can you define for people what biodiversity means so they can understand that, and then also what would be required to improve that condition for this crisis?
Well, let me make a simple example. More than 60% of our food somehow has to do with pollinators, with bees. If we are killing the bees on our planet using pesticides, we are actually firing in our own feet. We are reducing our own productivity. Now, I said we can reduce and we can even undo land degradation. And what's needed is simply hard work. And where we work in many places of the Sahelian countries, for example, we have mostly women working their own land, digging micro dams, half moons as we call them, collecting rainwater and pushing back the desert by bringing back trees, by bringing back vegetation and building up topsoils, doing composting and other measures in order to turn that desert back into arable land.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the fact is we need multi-pronged approaches, not just people working on stuff, but also government. Everybody needs to be involved, and all the companies that are doing harm to the environment need to be stopped. But the fact is like he was saying, if we want to keep these things from happening, we have to also change the way our agriculture system functions, as it is heavily taxing on the land. It does not replenish the necessary biodiversity. It just slashes and destroys it, and winds up we wind up in this obscene situation we were talking about. Uh-oh, what is happening? Computer is being weird again. Okay, there we go. Alright, now let's go away from the food supply and quickly we're gonna go, well, across the pond is the wrong way to say it, because really we've been talking about the whole earth. But let's go to the UK, where climate protesters went to Stonehenge and made a protest here. Oh god. Every second. Yep, that's what it said. That's what they said.
Oh my god.
Stop lagging.
No!
Stop lagging. Hold on. Hold on, chat. I'm sorry. But things have been getting a little weird over here today with my software. It's been happening more lately than usual. Not sure what it is. Although I did have to change a few settings to get multi-streaming to work. That could be part of it. May have to stop multi-streaming, even though Twitch is the only place that I'm making, are able to make money while streaming. Although Patreon is there. But god damn, this is, there we go. There we go. Now it's working.
Hey! They're coming to destroy. No! Hey! Hey! No! They're destroying. Okay, we need security here. We need security here right now. No! They're coming to destroy. Stop it! Stop it! Stop him! No! What nonsense? Huh?
You can tell they're serious and they're not just vandals because they just sit right down. And hats off to them, honestly. It is hard to put yourself upon the, you know, gears of the machine and to say enough is enough and put yourself in potentially in a bad situation to make a point about something that is important to all of us, but few of us do anything about it. Mostly because it's I think a lot of people feel like they don't even know what they would do or how they would help, but also the potential for being arrested and all of these other things that come along with protesting. But the fact is, we need fucking action on the environment immediately. And doesn't seem like the facts are waking anybody up to the degree necessary, especially in the places that it matters, like the United States. Although we're not the only big emitters out there, we're certainly some of the most pervasive. And I think we're number one in terms of per population emissions. By quite a bit, actually. Disco Wolf falling asleep. All right, do what you gotta do. Let's go to this. Look, the rest of Europe, where they've been hit by both heat waves and the storms.
In its first days of summer, Turkey is hit by a massive heat wave, with temperatures reaching over 40 degrees in the southern and western regions of the country. Both the humidity rate and the temperature felt are above seasonal norms as people rushed to the sea. Hungary is also suffering from a massive heat wave. The country's national chief medical officer has issued the highest level of heat alert, a level 3 warning, which is in place until midnight on Saturday across the entire country. Experts urge everyone to drink more fluids, as they warn that a heat record could be broken on Wednesday. The European Championship fan zone in Leipzig and Augustusplatz, Germany, were temporarily closed on Tuesday afternoon due to an unexpected thunderstorm.
Okay, so yeah. Europe continues to see very extreme weather as well. And we are going to cap this all off by going to Delhi here in India, where they have just experienced the hottest ever June night due to a heat wave that is hitting India. Woof. It's just
So hot right now.
Just everywhere.
Meanwhile, in India, the capital Delhi has experienced its hottest ever June night, with temperatures rising higher than normal by 6 degrees. One government hospital said it had seen 46 patients suffering from heat stroke this month alone. With more, here's our correspondent Samira Hussain.
Follow me. We're going to go into the critical care unit at this emergency ward in this government hospital here in central Delhi. And if you come in, you can see that half of the patients here are actually here because of heat stroke. I mean, this particular hospital primarily sees day laborers. So these are people that are outside, migrant workers that are in this heat, that are working outside. They also see a lot of elderly patients who are a lot more susceptible to these kinds of high temperatures. You know, and there are people just coming in and out of here every minute. This particular hospital has actually built a heat stroke unit, and they have these large baths and ice making machines so they can cool down people's temperatures really quickly. The head of emergency medicine here told me that just yesterday, for the first time in his career, he's recorded a temperature of 110 degrees in a patient. And remember that a normal body temperature is about 98 degrees.
110? People's bodies shut down before 110. I think it's like, they start shutting down, like, I think like 106 or something. Like majorly important stuff starts like going awry at temperatures well below 110.
And when temperatures get that high, he said, well, that can lead to multiple organ failure. So it's really dangerous. Now, this hospital over the last 2 days has seen about 24 heat stroke patients come in, of which 5 have died.
Oh, God. That is rough. The entire planet just seems to be too hot. Who could have predicted that? Alright. People started predicting these problems 50 years ago. Alright, we're gonna take a short break. Well, I hope everybody's been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. It really helps me out. If you'd like to help out even further, well, you got one good choice. Go to this link here in chat and become a Galactic Patreon member, where incredible space benefits await. Anyways, just grab yourself a little drink, perhaps a snack, and I'll be right back.
So hot right now.
Do you know what we're here for?
Equal parts.
Oh my gosh.
Oof, I am tired today. Okay. I might have to call it a night here. I have so much stuff on this list. I just don't think I can tackle it right now. I'm gonna do this. Sorry, chat. Well, I suppose we made it through another one. Oh, I'm ending sooner than expected. So I'll see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Mitty, PB, Robot Cat, Morbius Dragon, The Anti-Corporatist, Moanoa, Nadia, Mrs. Jen, Pitchforks Dragon, Betsy Morales, and Donald James X. That's right. All these people have made the right decisions and have decided to help support the Galactic News Network. You can do the same thing, but go into that link in chat. For a few US dollars a month, you can gain access to sweet, sweet space benefits. And to help support what we do here, the Galactic News Network. Write that down.